Hello friends! It's Kelly with Infinity Creations. This week I am working on some hotpads, or face warmers, whatever you want to call them. I went ahead and started with a jersey knit fabric because I wanted it to be really soft. I cut it to about 9.5 inches around, and I sewed up the sides. On the third side, I went ahead and left a small, maybe 2 to 3 inch opening so I could put my rice in there. I did a lot of research on what kind of fillings to use, and rice just kind of seemed to be the best option. So here I had the idea to make a hole for your nose. Because I don't know about you, but when I'm trying to warm up my face, because I'm having eye strain or a migraine, I always feel a little claustrophobic. And so I wanted to mitigate that by putting a kind of an opening right where your nose would be so you could relax, lean back, and really just let the heat do its job, but still be able to breathe through the material and through the rice. So I went ahead and just sewed a long, skinny rectangle. And here I am trimming the corners so that it opens a little easier. That's one of the only things I remember about my sewing class in high school. But it's alright, we're figuring it out. I was really struggling to get the whole thing turned inside out, I guess right side out, I don't know. And I realized my mistake. I sewed the rectangle in the middle too early. So I should have turned it inside out and then sewn it together. So here I am, seam ripping all of that. So don't stress if you make mistakes. I used to really get down on myself for any mistake I made, and now it's just kind of like, all right, that happened, move on. So had to rip all that out and then re-sew it, which was fine because that really gave me a chance to make sure I could fill up the bag with rice afterwards easily. So it all worked out. I just definitely can't let myself dwell on the issues and mistakes. So just keep that in mind. And here I am sewing it again. It went really quick, so it wasn't that big of a deal, but it did put me behind like 10 minutes because it takes forever to seam rip. And if you've ever sewn anything and then had to seam rip it, you know what I mean. So here I'm just using my really sharp scissors to cut through there and then just trim up those sides. There it is, your little nose hole. This is probably me being extra because I have that tendency. But I did go through with a embroidery thread and I just kind of sealed in those edges. I just kind of sealed in those edges so that you couldn't really see that it was cut. I'm not really sure. I thought it would give it a cleaner look. And then here I've got my rice all laid out and ready. I bought a 5-pound bag from the dollar store because I wasn't sure how much I would need for a couple of my projects. And so I decided to go with a 2-pound measurement and see how that worked. I didn't want it to be too heavy when it's sitting on your face, but I also wanted it to have enough heft that it would actually do its job and hold in some heat. And so here I am struggling. I gotta find a better way to do this. But I am trying to keep the little silicone funnel in the little opening. I'm also trying to make sure that the rice doesn't fall out of the measuring cup and onto my my table, which you see I failed at. And then, like, oh man, it was a process, but it's all right. It all worked out. But when you're doing something like this, you're like, man, is there a better way? I don't know. We're just gonna keep doing it this way. And then went ahead and got started on the cover. I watched a singular video. I really mean just one video. I watched it and I was like, got it. I'm an expert now. I tried to do like 4 different things and I was like, wait, do I do this? No, I do this. Well, honestly, we're just gonna try it and figure it out. So I cut my cover fabric the width of my hot pad, and then the length I made twice the size of my hot pad and a little extra. So here I am again, kind of trying to measure out what I was thinking in my head. The cover itself is 9 inches. So I was measuring out 9.5 because I knew I'd have a 1/4 inch seam allowance on both sides. So I was trying to make sure I was measuring correctly. And then I realized my fabric wasn't cut straight on one side, so it didn't come out even. But again, we're learning, we're growing. I was like, you know what? As Tim Gunn would say, make it work. So we made it work. It really did. And it wasn't actually that much of a issue because once I got the edges hemmed and sewn together, you really couldn't tell that one side had an extra 1/4 inch on it than the other side did. Here I was trying to also keep in my head, like, okay, how am I putting this together? Which side will fold over? The video I watched had the seam in the middle, but in my head I was wondering, like, would it be better to have the seam on the top? And so I did make 2, one with the seam in the middle and one with the seam at the top. And they are absolutely the same. It really, I don't think there's any difference. They came out great. I just think one of them's maybe a little bit easier to do because the one in the middle, the seam in the middle, is just maybe a little bit easier to do because you don't have to sew an extra part. You just have to sew the sides once you hem it. Boom. Just like that. And it's done. And then you just trim the edges. And turn it right side out. You gotta get your happy dance in there. Moment of truth. Does it fit in there? And huzzah! It fits! I was so excited! Another little happy dance. Look at that, isn't it so cute? And the fabric is so soft. So here are the results, and then I have the two covers, the one with the seam on the top and the seam in the middle. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great week. Bye!